Hey guys, Travis with Everglades, and today we're going to talk about daily maintenance checks on a John Deere 333G. Alright guys, so obviously we have a John Deere 333 behind us, but what I'm going to talk about can apply to most any John Deere skid steer or compact track loader. So let's get into it. So obviously this one we have a grapple attached to here. What we need to check is make sure that our hoses are routed in such a way that they're not going to be pinched or damaged whenever you're operating your grapple or your attachment. If you had a bucket on here or even a set of forks, you need to make sure that attachment is securely mounted before you start using it. So let's just kind of go through here and go through some of our daily checks. So we're going to look at our track system here. So we're going to be checking the tracks to make sure there's no premature wear on it anywhere, make sure there's no potentially like a metal cleat exposed or anything like that. We also want to make sure that the undercarriage is clean. It's very important to have this area around the sprocket clean as well, because if this gets packed with dirt and your sprocket tries to just turn through that, what it does is it basically creates almost just like sandpaper, and it prematurely wears your sprocket, which can cost you more money in the long run. So you also want to make sure your track is tensioned correctly. The way you do that is you tilt your bucket down and basically pick the machine up with the bucket, and then you measure from this roller right here. It's different on other models of skid steer as to which roller it is, but usually it's one back here. It's usually either the next one to the back or the third from the back. So, and you check it, it's about 1.25 inches, but you want to make sure your tracks are adjusted. The way you do that, behind this door there is a grease zerk. Whenever you put grease in there, it actually causes this front idler to come forward a little bit and tighten the tracks. You don't want them to be too tight because that can wear your tracks prematurely as well. If they're too tight, it can actually stretch the metal bands inside the track and wear them prematurely. Going back through here, we're checking to make sure there's no leaks, there's no obvious signs of physical damage to the machine, making sure our glass windows are sufficiently clean to see out of for safety. We're also checking just to make sure any obvious stuff leaks underneath the machine, checking our hoses on the back of the boom, checking the exhaust stack to make sure it's not damaged or anything. Now, once we get into here, into the engine compartment, there's obviously a few more things we can check. Engine oil is right here, it's color coded, so yellow right here is your engine oil. So we're checking our engine oil here. Engine oil fill is located right there. Hydraulic oil fill is there. Your fuel tank is right here. This is where you would put new fuel in. Now again, up here, here's your periodic maintenance chart that tells you everything you need to do from a daily perspective. So here you have you can see that each item is listed as required, daily. You know, you got 50 hours, 500 hours, etc. Here's where your engine air filters are located here. Now you check these by removing this cap here. Just make sure they're not excessively clogged. Just check those as needed. If you're working in a very dusty environment, you're obviously going to want to check them more often. Your cooling package is located here. Now, we've done this in other videos where you can raise the loader boom up and you can lock it out, so you can have your loader boom up out of the way to check this to have more visibility. But you're checking here to make sure, so we're going to check and make sure there's no excessive buildup of dirt, chaff, grass, debris. You can also pull this pin down right here and you can swing this open. Now if this was out of the way, you can swing it a little bit more, but get you like an air compressor or something, you can blow that out. Air compressor works best. A leaf blower also works. It doesn't give you as much focused air as an air compressor would, but it's better than not cleaning it out at all. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to take a water hose and introduce a bunch of water into here, because that can create like a muddy, mucky mess, and that can actually clog up your radiators and create a nasty situation in there, so keep that in mind. Now, the fuel water separator on this unit is right there. You see that black bowl right there with the white valve on the bottom, the little butterfly valve down there? So there's your fuel water separator. When you need to drain it, you just twist that white thing at the bottom. Your dirty diesel will come out, close it back, and you're good to go. Before you drain it, there is a valve located on top of it. There's a valve located right on this side of it. It's hard to see on the camera, but that's where it is. So you're going to want to shut your fuel off, drain the fuel water separator, close the fuel water separator, turn your fuel back on, and you're done. So we're also just visually inspecting anything, make sure there's no leaks, broken hoses, any signs of leaks, things like, you know, like wet spots around hoses, signs of leaks. We're also going to check our fan, make sure there's no damage to any of the fan blades, the cooling package. This is where your depth tank is located. If you need to add more diesel exhaust fluid, this is how you would do it. You just lift up this latch, and there you go. Here's your capper. Obviously, it's color-coded blue for your diesel exhaust fluid. So with any machine, it's very important to grease it. This machine's no different. You want to make sure every day you properly go through here and grease all your lubrication points. So anywhere there's a bend in the machine, you'll find a grease point. So obviously there's a couple, one there. You got these on your linkage pins here. Now the important one, some of the most important ones to get, obviously they're all important, but you want to make sure your lower quick attach pins right here are properly greased. You also want to make sure that the belly of the machine is clean itself, right? So the way you do that, and you get right there, you can see those two gray ports down there. Okay, so those two gray ports right there, those are your washout ports. So every week, couple weeks, it depends on how much dirt you're in, but you will have dirt that builds up inside the belly of the machine, okay? The way you clean that out, you need to do two things. Number one, you need to tilt the cab, and number two, you need to take those washout ports out. So what you could ideally do is find you a spot where the machine is situated as such, about like that, and you tilt the cab. The way you do it, there are two 3/4 inch nuts located on this side of the cab and at the same place on the other side of the cab. So you remove those, you grab a hold of the cab, tilt the whole thing up. Once the cab's tilted up, you can visually inspect in there, again, to check for leaks, and you want to make sure you don't see excessive dirt build up in there. Move your washout ports, and you could, like, you know, let's say you look in there and there is a significant amount of dirt. You can get you like a small shovel, about what you'd use to, you know, play in your flower bed and cultivate your dandelions. Get some of your dirt out. Be careful not to damage any of the hoses in there. And you can get like a low pressure, like a garden hose, and just wash the belly out. Don't get like a pressure washer. That could be too much pressure for some of the electronics in there. So just keep that in mind. Again, you also need to check the AC filters for the air conditioning system in this machine. One of them is located above the seat in the back. There's another one that's located where you tilt the cab. So the other AC filter would be located right about here. So you tilt the cab up and you look in there, there's an AC filter right in there. So you're gonna wanna check that, make sure it's not clogged. The best indicator that you need to service your AC system is if the air is not blowing the same volume of air it was when the machine was new. So if you're not feeling as much air coming out of your vents, it's probably because your AC filters are clogged. So again, whenever you're getting into a machine, make sure you have 3 points of contact, meaning 2 feet, 1 hand, 2 hands, 1 foot, etc. So I'm gonna climb up in here. There's plenty of handles on this machine to get a hold of whenever you're climbing in the machine. Once in the cab, you're gonna inspect your windows, make sure they're clean. You're gonna check your seat belt, make sure it's not excessively worn, make sure there's no cuts, tears, rips in it. Checking the footwell, just make sure there's not excessive buildup of mud, dirt, debris. We're also gonna check our rear window, make sure it's sufficiently clean. This orange thing right here, if you pull that down, that's your emergency escape to get out of the back of the machine if you need to. Okay, you also want to check your hydraulic fluid every day. The sight glass is located right there. So you can see it very clearly if you're standing behind the machine and you look right there. See how there's 2 arrows pointing right there? So you should be able to see that gold level of fluid right there in the middle of that sight glass. When you check your hydraulic fluid, make sure the boom is resting on the ground and your bucket's resting on the ground. Don't have it up in the air when you check your hydraulic fluid, or it's gonna show low because the fluid's up there. Sight glass located right there. Make sure the fluid line should be about in between. So thanks for watching. If you have any other questions, feel free to contact your local Everglades dealer and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.